Well, there we go.
And we're off. First time ever interviewed by Melinda Newman. This is big for me.
It's so not true. You've been interviewed by me before. That is. I
know you're absolutely right.
I want to dispute that from the start, but we'll let that go for now.
Strike that claim from the record.
Yeah, strike that from the record. I'd like that stricken from the record, please. So you've given an incredible amount of time and energy to the Guild over, the last decade. Why? Why was this important to you to participate?
Well, I mean, I guess when our volunteer steering committee for the music supervisors decided to start the Guild in 2010, we had no idea what we would do and what it would be. But the fact that we were able to get voting, Grammy voting, Emmy voting, it just makes you proud of the lobbying efforts that everybody put in. But I think that we figured out if we got in the boat together and rowed hard, it would be something that everybody could be proud of. And as we move into 2022, you don't realize what you could actually create if you put it together. But it's one of those things that if you love what you do, then you want to make it successful for yourself and everybody else, and you want people to, the music supervising is one of these things that was always kind of never talked about, and it kind of rose up over the last decade, and a lot of it is us getting that notoriety for it and pushing the craft forward, and that's really what the goal has always been. And I think that when you put a group of people like we did together to start, it can really achieve great things.
Why did you decide not to rerun for your board seat?
For me, the one thing I did a lot of Grammy board service, and it was basically because I never liked how in the Grammys, people would always try to rerun for their board seat over and over again, and you would never be allowed to get new people into the mix. And I kind of hated that. I always thought that, you should always get out of the way at a certain point and try to get new blood in there. So after about a decade in there, it was time to cycle out, and I just never went back. So obviously, now I've been on helping to found and co-run this organization for the last 11 years. And now it's kind of that same cycle, you want to really make sure that the next generation is coming in and that all the same people are not on the board over and over again. It's just a bad look as far as for the growth of the organization. So it's not like I won't do stuff with the organization. I'll still always try to raise money. The international is a passion of mine. Education's a passion of mine. So I'll continue to do stuff. It's just as far as the board seats go, they're very limited. And it's always about, how do you get the next generation in?
What was it that first inspired you to step up and dedicate your time to the Guild in the first place?
I think that, when I realized, Maureen Crow really helped grab the ball at the beginning, and she really got a bunch of us motivated. She's got that same New York energy that I have, and that was pretty infectious. So, the crew at the beginning was, Evian Clean, Dave Jordan, Becky Mancuso. I gotta rack my brain 1 second because I always want to name check the right people. PJ Bloom, Thomas Golovich, Dave Jordan, John Houlihan, Evian, Alex Patsavas, Joel C. High, Becky Mancuso, Bonnie Greenberg. That was the crew that got together. I remember one of the first meetings in my office at when I was at Island Def Jam. We had a meeting and we decided that we would push the group forward, and we would try to start a guild. And if it was an amazing feeling to be in the room with all those people. And I said to myself, wow, if we could actually combine the strength of this room, what could actually happen? And you never think that, 11 years later, you're selling out the Wiltern, or not even that, right, 9 years later, you're selling out the Wiltern Theater with your award show, and you have chapters in the UK and in Canada and in New York. and you're getting, you're voting for the Emmys, you're voting for the Grammys, you have your own Emmy category. So I think that combination of just people working together for a common goal to create something was and still is amazing.
You just mentioned a number of accomplishments, but do you want to highlight some more of them that you're most proud of?
Oh, for me, I mean, obviously, I think that, again, starting chapters in both New York, Canada, and the UK was amazing. Joel Sihai and the president and I went over to the UK and ended up meeting with a room of salty British supervisors about why should we do this. And by the end of the time we were there, and after many pints, we had the idea that we would start a guild in the UK. So, to open it up internationally and to have that. And then obviously we cast Michael Perlmutter in Canada to be the president there, and that opened that up. And then Ed Girard, we got as a New York board member, and he helped steer the New York committee, and they're amazing. So, getting people engaged, Melinda, is a very hard thing to do. And, there's a huge advertising community in New York, and they don't even call themselves music supervisors, a lot of them. They call themselves music producers because that's the way the agency structure had been. So there was a huge disconnect off the bat to get New York involved. And, they have their own organization, Association of Music Producers. So it's kind of like, and we've been working with the Clios this year and, working with AMP to build a bridge of getting more advertising people involved with the Guild. So I'm really proud of that. And because as a New Yorker, that's, always important to make sure your people are represented. And as part of the international outreach, we were able to procure education events with publishing and label people from countries like Japan, the UK, France, the Nordics, Canada. And we do these recurring things with them to educate their members on how to basically interact with us, and so that they can, basically get their music to us. Because again, the one thing cool about music supervision is that it doesn't matter where your music's from. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's all about what it sounds like. And does it fit the picture, video game, trailer that you're working on? So that's a major accomplishment for me. The fact that we've done, education events over the last 8 years, and the last 4 we partnered up with New York, or New York Steering Committee with Mondo, who was the old folks from CMJ, Bobby and Joanne. That's been a really great thing to just, again, engage that New York advertising community, which I think is super important. Obviously, the awards, starting out 11 years ago in a tiny restaurant, Grammy morning with an award show. We gave out a couple of awards to go into the Wiltern Theater. Those are like some of my best things that I think we've put together. And obviously lobbying, as we talked about, for the Emmys, getting that category and now being recognized, and everybody reaches out to us and to be involved with their films and on their TV shows to promote. And that's kind of cool. So it really has been a great decade of growth.
What impact do you think the awards have had in building awareness for the role of music supervisors? Like you said, it's grown from a breakfast to selling out the Wiltern and getting pretty big names.
I think the combination of our awards and the Emmys have really raised the profile of the organization. And I think that's something that I'm super proud of, because everybody, it's a volunteer organization, right? So nobody's getting paid except for a few staff members, and not much. So for everybody who puts that time in building a volunteer organization, it's impressive, and it's the group of people that's on the board now. Everybody cares, everybody works hard. And the committee services that we all do, whether it's education committee, international committee, membership committee is always hard. The people who have to vet all the potential new members. And part of what we do is we keep it, I don't want to say restrictive, but we keep it so that you had to have X amount of credits and you had to be viewed in good standing. If there's bad actors out there, we're not a policeman, but it's our job to basically make sure that the right people are in, because, that adage, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. So, and making sure that the title of music supervisor is not being used by people at music libraries who are pitching music. We have our GSM letters, that you could put on an independent movie. Obviously, we'd like to be working deeper with the studios. Someday there'll be healthcare. Someday there will be better benefits. Someday there will be better wages. But again, all that takes time and lobbying efforts and partnerships. All these other guilds that have built up over the years, the PGA being the newest one, which I'm in, and that's been a blessing to watch how they've grown. And working with them, for example, on the documentary committee, something I want to do more of as I continue to produce and direct more films. So part of it is also that, I have that other side of me. Besides, I love supervising, but I also love producing and directing films. So I want to do more work on the PGA side also moving forward.
How has the landscape changed for music supervisors since you started on the board?
Well, I think the visibility and recognition of the craft has skyrocketed over the last decade, and that's super exciting. We used to have to beg people to send us screeners and codes to watch shows so our membership could vote intelligently for GMS awards. Now, like I said, we're pitched by a good chunk of the networks and streamers to promote the great work that supervisors do. And, that feels like a full circle moment that we have been recognized. And as far as the landscape goes, I just think, there's a lot more entities out there, have shows that need supervisors, which is great, which means more work for everybody. And, again, the visibility, I think, is just at all-time high right now.
What are some of the challenges facing music supervisors today?
Yeah, like I said, I think the visibility has gone way up, but the rates that supervisors get paid have not really matched that. And that's, it's a fun but frustrating way to make a living. So a lot of people multitask, like they'll work a library or they'll pitch music and they'll supervise, right? So I think fees need to be higher. And, like you could end up on a film for 2 years, right? And you don't get paid per day you work, per week you work, per month you work. You just get paid that flat rate. And once you agree to that flat rate, it's very hard to get anything extra. If you're on TV, it's different because you get a per week salary, but you're obviously working many more weeks than the production is actually moving, right? So you're working in pre, you're working in post, but you're getting paid on the production schedule. So, music editors, for example, they get paid per hour, right? They're cutting in music, which a lot of times we do anyway, if the supervisors have the skills to cut the music in. So we'd love to be paid like those guys and gals, in the music editors. And they're part of the music editors union. So, they are organized and they have better benefits than we do. So yeah, we're jealous. We want to do that too.
What advice would you give to an up and coming music supervisor?
I would say that, you got to love it, right? You got to really dig it. And I always teach, I teach at American University and I teach a business of visual media class. And I said, look, this job is not for everybody, but what it is it puts you in touch with TV, film, video games, record publishers, record labels, managers of artists, editors on pictures, and TV, showrunners, directors, producers. Like, you picture a wheel, right? You're kind of that centerpiece of that wheel, and all the spokes around you are rolling because you're the kind of conduit when it comes to music. So I think it's a really blessed way to make a living, and I am just blown away that I fell into it 20 years ago and made, when I supervised my first film for free, no less. But, since then I've done quite close to 100 films and TV shows, and it's been a blessing. So I think that, again, just know that you really want it and know that it is a blessing that to make a living in it if you could figure out how to do it. And just you got to go all in. That's kind of the short story.
What would you say to a music supervisor who says, I don't need to be involved with GMS?
What would I say? That's a good question. I think life is what you make it, and when I was coming up, like I said, the volunteer leadership at the Grammys, someone said to me, why would you get involved with that old boy network? Like, nothing's ever going to change in that organization. And the next year after that, I became a trustee. And one of the first things I did is we voted out Mike Green and then I helped Neil Portnow get in the door. And so, and then the organization had a lot of growth and a lot of positives over that decade. And so, you know, that one thing is like, you can't listen to other people. You have to do what you feel good about. And because the Grammys for me were one of the most fulfilling experiences of my career. The people that I met, the stuff that I did, the things that I learned. And when I got involved with the Grammys, I told people I got out of the record business and into the music business, because there is a difference, right? The record business was very myopic at that point. So I think that, you know, you have to do what's good for you. And if you really love music supervision, then you should be giving back to it, and you should be making the field better, you know, one day at a time for the next generation. I watched the movie the other night called, what was it called? It was about the women's soccer team suing the soccer federation. I think it was called Go For It, or fucking Go For It, LFG it was called. But it was like they were talking about, this is not necessary for us trying to get equal pay for women, but it's for the next one. It's for the next generation. And, you know, all that extra stuff they had to do a lawsuit and depositions and press for it. And, you know, it was really the same thing. Like, if you believe in a cause, you just go for it. And I spent a lot of time, you know, being on a pediatric cancer board for while that entity was around, and we ran a charity tennis tournament, which we'll probably bring back next year. But, you know, when you get involved with causes, you meet a lot of interesting people. You do stuff you feel good about, and I think, you know, one of the films I just produced about Muhammad Ali, you know, we're trying to launch an education initiative, and I want to spend a good chunk of the time next year trying to get that off the ground, a national education initiative, talking about the principles of Muhammad Ali. And obviously, you know, he was a great athlete, activist, and he really was, you know, someone who just cut across all barriers and races. So things like that, you just want to spend time on. I think, you know, with the board as it is now, it's an amazing board. And obviously Madonna as vice president and Joel as president have done an amazing job, and they're going to continue on. So it's like, part of it is you feel like if the stewardship of an organization is in great shape, then you're good. And that's really what, you know, I think the place and time is today.
My last question is, what will you miss most about stepping away?
Well, again, for me, it's not stepping away from the whole organization. It's just stepping off the board service. And, you know, the camaraderie of a board is a really cool thing when you get a great group like we have. And so that's what I'm going to miss, as far as just, and the planning and being involved with all the planning of the different things and helping to, you know, create opportunities and ideas. But, you know me, Melinda, I'm never going to be able to fully step away because I just have so many connective points that I love to put things together, you know, and like, oh, well, the guild could do this, and the guild can make money doing this, and, you know, the guild can lend their hand to this, and, you know, so I just, as a producer, you like love putting pieces together. So the guild will always be another piece of my life. You know, it's never going to go away.